What's up, tribe? It is time. It's Friday, and welcome to the show. We are talking about how long you should hold stretches for, and also answering a few questions as to why in our mobility programs we don't do the classic norm that we're taught at school. Now, in case we haven't met, my name is Yanni Bormeister, and to my right is my brother Rad. And we're going to dive right into all of that and more just after this. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image. All right, now we're down here at our gym, Unity Gym, where we are teaching people how to move instead of just exercise, because honestly, we think that the health and fitness industry is backward, and health should be measured by how your body performs and feels, not just how you look. Rad, how are you feeling today?
Yeah, really good. Awesome.
Yeah? Friday is deadlift day for us down at Unity Gym in the Foundation Movement System. So all of our tribe have been doing hip bend movements this morning, depending on their level of skill and progress, right up to some guys doing quite heavy deadlifting. We're coming around the bend now in our strength phase, in our mesocycle, where next week is the last week of muscle hypertrophy. My God, how's your body feeling?
Yeah, pretty sore, man.
Muscle hypertrophy, like if anyone who enjoys muscular hypertrophy training, it's sadistic. Like it's just so much volume, and it really does feel uncomfortable. I much prefer training for strength. I don't know about you, but
big time, yeah.
Lots more rest when you train for strength, and it's a little bit easier and less volume. It's the volume that hurts. So for all of you guys following our programs online in the Movement Mastermind, be very excited, because as we have promised to that core group, that foundations group, you're going to be getting all of these programs very, very soon. And I can't stress how awesome they are. My body is just feeling amazing. There's a good transformation occurring. And I feel like we turned a bit of a corner this week with our own personal training.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I started seeing some real strength development, some neuromuscular adaptations occurring, and able to hold my calisthenics static holds for longer and get a little bit closer to the next progressions.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good week.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had Rad tap me on the shoulder this week because I was just holding some of the progressions I was working on for too long. And he's like, dude, you got to make the movement harder, you know.
Yeah. Time to progress. Get to the next one.
Progress. That's right, and which is an awesome feeling. So, on the agenda today is we've had a great question. Who the question come from?
I can't find it. We've got so many channels here, guys, and I need to. I'm getting used to this. That I need to save the questions. I can't find it in Facebook or YouTube or my email, which are the usual channels that we get these questions from. But I remember the question very well. I think it was via email. I just can't find it. But it was the question was, I'm just looking in here to see if I can see it.
Sorry, we just like to acknowledge who asked the question so that we can give them a little bit of a shout out.
Yeah, it is
someone from our Movement Mastermind. Oh no, it's someone who's downloaded the program.
It's someone who's looking at downloading the program. They're either looking at it, but I got the impression that whoever this was saying that they're thinking about downloading our program, but they were asking me questions as though they'd already seen it, because they were saying, basically the question is, why do you not hold stretches for 30 seconds? I've got a background, this is the question, I've got a background in sports science. I've studied exercise and sports science, and insinuating that what you're taught in exercise and sports science is the classic hold a stretch for 30 seconds if you want to get a result.
Yep.
And I have to, this is a funny one, because though I completely respect anyone that's got a good education, an exercise and sports science degree on paper is a hell of a lot more than what you or I have, but it doesn't give you the industry experience that we have. And what I achieved by following the science, I'm doing this a lot today, by following the science of stretching was 2/5 of fuck all. I didn't really get anywhere doing that. I did the old get into a stretch and feel it and hold it for 30 seconds, and then change sides and do 3 sets like that. And nothing happened. My body just didn't change. And I don't know anyone that ever really achieved a great result by doing that. What changed for us was when we created a daily routine that we could do every day that hit all the major muscles, all the major joint movements in the body that we were that we just did every day because it became a habit. And that old 30 seconds hold, I've never done a proper routine like that. I don't know anyone because it would take forever to get all the major muscle groups in your body like that. And it's just something that nobody does.
Yeah.
No one, if you want to get your hamstrings in all the different angles, your quads in all the different angles, your glutes in the different angles, and you haven't even got into your adductors yet, and that's only one joint. That's only your hip joint.
Yeah.
You know, to do that for 30 seconds on each position for all the joints in the body every day in a way that you'll achieve a result, it's going to take too long. So the question again, why do we not hold them for 30 seconds? It takes too long, it wasn't realistic, and it's not something that we teach for beginners, because what we want to teach to beginners is something that they're actually going to do. Frequency, like something
we want to cultivate frequency and consistency.
Yeah.
And those two things over any clinical study trump hands down. And that's the basic foundation to our whole program is frequency and consistency. And we're one of a very few personal trainers who run an entire business, and a brick and mortar business. You know, we're in a very high socioeconomic environment here in North Sydney. Costs a lot of money to run a business, so you know, the fact that we've been going for 5 years is there's some decent weight behind the fact that what we're doing is effective and we're popular. But the program that we do here is very unusual, because I've got a lot of friends who are personal trainers who ask me a lot, how the hell do you get people to commit to 5 days a week and of training, you know? And the reality is that anyone who's achieved anything really spectacular in physical capability trains at least 5 or 6 days a week. And many of them train twice 5 or 6 days a week. And so we said to ourselves many years ago, in conversation when we were designing our program, do we really want to market and sell something that we know 100%, we're certain that it won't deliver a very good result? And the answer was no. We don't. We want to deliver a product and an offer and a service that we know 100% certainty it will deliver a spectacular result. And that's what it came down to. So the answer, yes, in the textbook it says that you need to hold a stretch for a minimum of 30 seconds, up to sometimes 2 minutes. The reality, in real life scenario, it's very unpractical, and it doesn't deliver very good results because of that. It's the same as the reality that to maintain a really lean and healthy body composition, you can't drink alcohol, hands down. For us to stay below 10%,
unless you're going to go on gear and God knows what else.
Yeah,
you know, if you want to do it naturally.
Yeah, if you want to stay sub 10% body weight, if you want to stay sub 10% body weight and you're around the age of 40, there's no room for alcohol and binging and things like that on the weekend, and there's no room for processed and refined foods. There's no room for a lot of sugar, but the reality is that is not a diet that most people are going to follow. And so you have to find something that works for them and actually will deliver a result. So I hope we've answered your question.
Well, hang on. I've got something else to say. That said, if you've got the time, man, I wish I knew your name. I'm so sorry. I just can't find the question.
How rude.
But if you've got the time, when you do our routines, then absolutely stretch them out. Stretch them out to 40, 45 minutes. You know, if you're going to commit that time to stretching, and each position can be held for more like 30 seconds, for sure. Yeah. But the reason why we created an 18-minute stretching routine, in full transparency, the reason why we did it was because that we had to constantly try and make it shorter, because we had 1 hour to train people, and stretching was what we did at the start as the warm-up to prepare people for the workout, loosen their joints up, get their joints in the range of motion that's needed for the strength training, and to deliver some level of improvement in flexibility over time. Yep. And we just kept having to try and make it shorter, and we got it to a point where the quickest we could make it without even going to a step further, where you barely even stop in one position, was 18 minutes. Yeah. That wasn't a marketing thing. It's just we got it to 18 minutes. And then when we started saying, all right, what are we going to call this now that people want to buy it? Was, let's just call it the 18-minute stretching routine. Yeah. But if you've purchased the program and you want to do it on your own for 30 or 40 minutes, Absolutely.
It's
Will you
gonna
get a
be-
better result?
yeah.
100% you'll get a better
Yeah.
result. You'll get 1,000,000 times better result.
Yeah.
But if you're time poor, if all you've got is 1 hour in the gym, you shouldn't just be stretching. It's not all you should be doing. You should do your warm-up and then you should move on to strength training. And between your sets of strength training, after you've done 18 minutes of warm-up, do stretch the areas of your body that are the tightest and try and get multiple sets done on those, probably 3 sets on one area.
Now, I'll go a bit further and dive a bit deeper. The reason why we used to start with the 18-minute stretching routine is because the majority of our demographic here, where we work, the most important thing was mobility, and that's the foundation of our program. We focus on mobility, then stability, then strength. And we believe that true strength cannot be achieved in the absence of mobility, because if your joints are fighting themselves, then the restriction there, the very nature of that restriction in movement, will suppress strength. You can't express true strength in the absence of mobility. Now, so it was generally always prioritized for most of our clients, but not all of our clients. If we had an athlete who had a very a superior level of mobility and flexibility when they came in and we assessed them, then we wouldn't prioritize flexibility at the start of training, because that person's most likely going to be lifting heavy, and we don't want to compromise joint integrity. So then we created the mobility warm-up. And the mobility warm-up is exactly how we warm up now. There's no stretching in it. There's no passive or
That's the mobility mini course
active.
for those of
It's
you
the
that
mobility
purchase.
mini course if you're purchasing it, and that is the exact way that Rad, myself, and Richard warm up every day. Because there will be the scientists out there saying, well, you shouldn't stretch before a workout, and that's true in most cases, unless the priority is to develop flexibility.
Yeah.
Because when the priority is to develop flexibility, then it should be prioritized. And it absolutely should be put before training. And this answers the other question that we wanted to dive into today. When should you stretch? And the answer is, it comes down to the individual. If you have issues with mobility, and here's the thing, guys, you got to remember, true strength will never be achieved in the absence of flexibility and mobility. If your body's fighting itself to get into end range of movement, then the priority needs to be able to get into that end range of movement without restriction. Then from that point, you work on stability, which is we also refer to as end range strength, where you've got to develop strength and stability in those end ranges before you start diving into them, dive bombing heavy squats and things like that, you know. And then once you've developed that mobility and flexibility and stability, end range strength, you can start to really focus on strength, like really truly expressing maximal strength. And it's an amazing feeling. Anyone who's squat heavy before and then achieved a really high level of mobility and end range strength stability, and then you squat heavy again, it's a totally different feeling. You know, like I used to be able to squat 180 kilos, but it was dangerous when I hit the bottom end, and it was not comfortable, you know. And I could only squat with squat shoes and lifters and a very supportive weight belt and things like that. And nowadays when I squat to the bottom end, the bottom range, I can bounce off my joints at that bottom end range with zero risk of injury, because I'm not disturbing the positioning of my spine and things like that through that end range of movement. It's quite a liberating feeling, you know. So to answer the question of when you should squat, when you should stretch, it really depends on your goals and what you're trying to achieve. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're there should be a differentiation between when you should stretch and when you should do mobility training, because mobility is really, it's just taking your joints through full range of motion. So if I go like that, pushing my joint through its full range of motion, my shoulder joint, that's mobility training. Whereas stretching would be, you know, pulling my arms up and holding them into a stretch position. And what Yanni said is really true, just to drive it home. If your goal is strength, if you're trying to develop strength, then you definitely shouldn't be stretching before your workout, but you should be doing mobility. You should always do mobility first, because otherwise you'll get injured. And then you can do stretching at the end of your workout, or you can even do stretching between sets on the body part that's not being used. So that's something that we do really effectively. So if you're training your upper body, you can do lower body stretching between sets and vice versa.
Particularly a good thing to do if you're time poor.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
if
exactly
you're
right.
limited to a certain amount of time in the gym, then yeah, absolutely. So lower body strength training, you can do some upper body stretching.
Yeah, but beyond that, going back to the original question, I think this classic hold a stretch for 30 seconds it is great in theory, and in theory it does work, but what works much better is practical application of a routine that you do every day. Find what works for you, but the number one thing is consistency and frequency.
Yeah.
If you're not creating consistency, and consistency meaning you're doing it consistently day after day, and frequency meaning you're doing it multiple days a week, I would argue that absolute minimum is 5 days a week, and you really want to be looking at more like 6 or 7 days a week for stretching.
How are we going for time?
That's it.
Okay, I want to finish on the mindset of this on a macro level quickly. Here's the thing, guys. Our biggest breakthroughs in flexibility and mobility have come from just changing our mindset to intent. We've decided, okay, stretching and flexibility is not something we do if we find time. Stretching and flexibility is going to be prioritized because we now see the value in achieving high levels of mobility and flexibility. And that has changed everything for us. Now, if you're someone who knows soul search, shelf your ego, you know that you have restrictions in movement because you lack flexibility and mobility, then I urge you to shift your mindset to make that the priority for the next 6 to 12 months. I guarantee you that it will unlock freedom of movement and strength potential that you never have had before. And it will not take you very long to redevelop the strength again. So
100%.
Make sure it's a mindset thing. And I know what it's like, man. I used to prioritize strength over everything. I hated seeing my numbers go down. I worked very hard to achieve really heavy squats, really heavy deadlift, really heavy bench press. I could do pull-ups with 60 kilos strapped to my body, and I did not want to compromise that. So finding the room to improve mobility was really hard in my day. But the reality was that I had hit a glass ceiling with all of my strength, and it wasn't until I removed the restriction in my joints that I could really start to pursue true strength. So try to change your mindset. It's only for a short time. Look at the long term. Don't let impatience destroy your chances of mastery, because in the grand scheme of things, you should be looking at 5-10 years time anyway, and a year, what is it in the grand scheme of things? You'll be back to where you are in your strength in no time, but you will have increased the potential that you have exponentially.
100%.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Change your mindset around mobility. Get it done every single day. Find something that works for you, and we'll see you next week. Have a fantastic weekend. And
next week in Australia, if you're in America or Europe, then we'll see you on Sunday. That's when our next show is going to be.
Of course,
whatever time this is happening in your time zone. If you're in Australia, it's Monday, but everywhere else in the world, it's pretty much Sunday.
Awesome, guys.
Have a great weekend.
See you
soon.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.